Special Town Board Workshop for Thursday, March 31st, 2022. We only have one item on the agenda tonight, and that is a presentation and discussion on the Sandbar Park Waterfront Improvements Project construction bid results. With that, I'm going to hand the baton to Town Engineer Mary Harrington.
Hello, Board. I'm here with Pat Stevens, the Highway Superintendent, and Jared Miller, our Project Manager with Campus Construction. So we're presenting on the bid results and project costs for the Sandbar Park project. I wanted to start by bringing it full circle back to the budgets that were presented in June of 21 at the open houses. So I've highlighted in green costs that were included or scope that was included in this bid. So it was the Lake Road Ready project, the flood wall project that was, it's shared between Monroe County and the town. It did not include the Bayfront building, but it did include Phase 1 Core Park. So that's all the park improvements in the main area, excluding kind of the outstretching areas with the educational area and the overlook and some other trails. And then about half of the general park signage, I believe, will be utilized in this project. And then we're trending to spend about $1,050,000 on soft costs. So that was the design through construction admin. So if you sum those totals of what this scope covers, we are just under $8 million at $7.89 million.
So at the time of the construction documents being developed, Campus came on in January, February, prior to the project being put out to bid on February 18th. Our team of estimators generally goes through the construction documents and applies current date bid market conditions, as well as doing a full analysis of the documents. There are key factors that go into our estimating. We base it on, again, the current market conditions, and this year we're seeing an obvious increase and uptick in a lot of those costs. A lot of the things that go into that, and parts and pieces that were added on top of some of those inflations are the additional scope adjustments, some additional RG&E costs, some costs that were associated with making adjustments for permitting. But like I said, we're seeing additional inflation, workforce shortages, supply chain issues, and RS Means is a database that we use to base most of our pricing on, put out a statement with 71% of all construction material costs increased. That's across the board. 98% of labor costs have increased, and 71% of the equipment costs have increased. That's general construction. So all of that being said, we applied those assumptions as well as reviewing items within the drawings themselves, and our team anticipated a 30% increase from the 60% budget that you guys just looked at. So we were anticipating a 30% increase on that number. We opened bids the other day, and these were the actual prices we saw on bid day. As you can see, it might be difficult to see, but if you look all the way over on the right-hand column, our low was $7,228,000 and change, and our high was $10,080,000. So you can see, just in those costs alone, we saw the reality of what we're living in the bid market today. Is if we want to go to the next slide. So our low number, when you add up our alternates, which we'll get into a little bit later, some of our projected RG&E costs, the soft costs, so the design costs, construction contingency costs. When you add those up, it equals the lower number, the $8,826,538, which is a 12% increase from where we were at the 60% level. And again, we were anticipating that number not being 12, but in the range of 30% higher. So these numbers came in favorable, and that was based on good bid participation and people being aggressive on the project.
And I'll just add that based on campus's projection, that was one of the reasons why we did put alternates in this bid. It's a lump sum bid, so the easiest way to carve scope away prior to award is to have alternates to choose to not award if you wanted to reduce costs. But we were happy with the bid results that we got on Tuesday. And then this slide is touching on where we currently stand with our grant assistance. So if we did award all the alternates, we're getting at that $8.8 million cost. Between the READY grants, so that is the Lake Road grant, the flood wall that the town received, and then the flood wall that the county received, we got an additional $200,000 towards the shelter and restrooms for the park improvements, and then we got a grant from Department of State for the park improvements. That total is just under $5 million at $4.86 million in grants. So then the town-county share for the remainder of the project is just under $4 million. And I say town-county because the flood wall scope, if it were to exceed the approximate $1 million contribution that READY has put towards that project scope, there's a cost share based on an IMA that's been executed between the town and the county, where the town would pay 70% and the county would pay 30% based on the linear footage of the wall being put in. So that's how they're shared.
So Mary touched on it. The initial perception that was we were going to be potentially 30% over the initial budget. So at that time, that triggered us to identify some budget protection, and the way we do that is assigning alternates. So the alternates are not necessarily things that you want to see removed from the project, but the items that are most easily removed and potentially brought in at a later time. So we identified 5 alternates. The first one we'll let Pat jump into.
I was going to take this one just
Go.
to contribute. So the first alternate that we identified was to on the facing of the wall. So this is the wall that'll face the bay area currently underneath the large concrete area that has the railing along it. So at the top of the flood wall portion of the project, it needs to be faced with something in general. The base bid document, which you'll see the product on the left, is a traditional stacked stone with grout in between each item. That is a slightly more labor-intensive process to put that in there, along with a longer construction time due to having let things dry and set in multiple steps in the process. So given it was near the waterfront, we felt it would be reasonable to look at another option that we see pretty regularly, which is a form liner. So on the right is a product where you line the inside of the form for a wall, and when you pour regular concrete into it, it shapes it into a texture similar to rock. So this item is very durable. It's solid concrete. It does require staining. As you'll see, that product has been stained from the right, and as you go toward the left, it's the base product as it comes out, but the finished product is on the right. Very similar look, and this particular alternate results in a $2,000 decrease to go to the solid concrete form liner style of facade on the wall instead of the individual stack stone. So that was alternate 1.
Alternate 2 is a natural play area. It includes all of the playground elements. There's some, we'll call it simulation logs. It's a natural play area with logs and climbing structures. All of the elements that were involved with that are sitting on a wood mulch play surface. The base bid was to install everything but the equipment itself. So it would be a flat area that would be ready for installation of the play elements. However, that's the cost to actually bring those elements into the project.
The next alternate identified is a form of seating that's throughout the park. These are granite seat blocks. They feature a natural granite side on the sides, and the top is a cut granite face for seating scattered throughout the park. We identified this because obviously you can utilize other types of seating, but given the features throughout this park, this feature matches the best. It carries through the look of the actual curbing on the roadway and a lot of other features that are involved with the park right into the seating element. It looks very natural along the lakefront, things of that nature. But to incorporate this particular seat is an additional $61,000 to have that seat block included.
Alternate 4 is a shade structure within the park. We see this a lot on park projects. It's an element that's put in place where you can set up, folding chairs. It's just an area to get out of the sun for, families to have lunch under, or, endless amount of uses. But this cost includes all of the concrete as well as the shade structure itself. So there's exposed aggregate concrete area that's beneath there, as well as the structure itself.
And that's located in the northwestern corner on the lakefront. And the red image, I think we're looking at white, but that's a color that can be decided during the submittal process.
And then alternate 5 is the ADA, handicap accessible kayak dock. So this is obviously on the bay side. It's got a railing system that would allow a wheelchair to come down onto the dock system, and it allows for someone to sit on a bench and then load in and out of a kayak a lot more easily. It's not just for ADA use, it has its uses for people that would have trouble to get in a kayak, either way. And this is closest to the Bayside site.
And then I brought this slide back in, just, it's been a different path forward than we anticipated last fall. I did a presentation, I think in November, with the project schedule of awarding in January and breaking ground in April. And now here we are, hopefully awarding next Thursday, April 7th, and still breaking ground in April. So we were able to keep the construction schedule where it was, even though we took a little more time to finesse the design. So I thought that was exciting. But yeah, so we're presenting this to the board to answer any questions you have on the alternates or the bids, and come to a conclusion for next Thursday with what would be awarded in this construction bid.
And then just to sum up, I was going to throw my summary out there, which is just kind of my 2 cents on these bid results, having seen a few of them and different stuff. There's a lot of individual parts we just went over. The alternates are a little interesting to try to figure out, but the overall intent is to do everything that was included in there, the base and the alternates. To have to take any of those alternates away from the project changes the feel of the project. It eliminates a feature, essentially, if we don't award those type of things. Based on these results and what Jared mentioned about this market and supply chain and cost of materials, cost of labor, just all the factors going on in the world that just increase and change year to year to year to year, to only have this 12% over what was projected a very long time ago at 60%, in my opinion, is a huge win. I know it looks like 12% over, we have to account for that in our spending, but overall, to what this could have been, what we could be looking at this, for the value we're getting out of what we're spending, I think it's very, very good to take
I think it's
everything in
remarkable
there.
if those numbers came in only 12% over.
Yeah.
Because in the construction business, as you know, a lot of bids that are going out are, the bids are including accelerators because of this current market and the supply chain situations. I'm talking multi-million dollar bids are having accelerators. So for this to come in at only 12% over is amazing.
That's what I just wanted to make sure I got that in there, because I feel the same way.
No, you're 100% correct.
No.
With this last slide here, breaking ground in April, it'll start to allow them to order and secure materials. So with that,
Right.
once they do that up front, it takes a lot of that out of it.
Well, the sooner they can order,
Right.
as we go forward, the sooner the better.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no trend right now anywhere of any of this going in any direction but up,
Yeah.
in any way, shape, or form.
No, you're absolutely right.
Well, before any questions, just a quick couple comments, because I've been involved in this process the whole way. I realize for the board members on the dais here, the screen was very difficult to see on some of those screenshots.
Yeah.
All right? Those screenshots, I think, what is it, an 8-piece PowerPoint, Mary? 8 screens?
Yeah, something.
So we'll get it out to the board members, so certainly, as we go from tonight and dovetail to next Thursday night, when we tentatively have on the board meeting agenda for the awarding of the bid and the authorization of the town supervisor to sign the contract with the award. So John, as you know, and I think, actually Bill, from your background too, this is moving along pretty quickly, and it's a testament to the teamwork that has been done with Pat and Mary and Jared and a lot of other people in the town government. Because, today we had, what is it called, a D-scope meeting?
Correct.
Yeah? With what ostensibly looks like who's going to have the best municipal bid on this. And Jared, you had put together, I think, 16 questions for them that I considered to be, I don't want to say deposition questions, but you were flushing out, is this bid legit?
Correct, yeah.
All right? Not to be, because like Jared had said earlier, all indicators, I mean, unless you're under a rock the last 6 months, just take gas, $2.60 a gallon to $4.40 a gallon. There's your microcosm. And we were concerned a couple weeks ago that these bids that we open up, sealed bids, we don't know,
Right.
but we anticipated that they could go from $6.5 million to 10 to 11 million. And that's why we scheduled this meeting tonight, a week prior to opening the bids. I thought this board was going to have a lot of heavy lifting and decision-making because I was concerned, for good reason, that the bids were going to come in high, for all the reasons that Jared and Pat just said. Tuesday was a great day because when we opened the bids, we were pleasantly surprised that they were more in line. And there's a reason for that. And Councilman Emeritus Barry Dean is here tonight. You being in the highway department and construction business for many years, who appears to have the best bid, it's not rocket science why they probably have the best bid, just based on scheduling of work and where they're going to have people this summer. Is that a safe statement, Barry? Yeah. So we are, in the next week, I still would like to stay on schedule for awarding and authorizing the supervisor to sign that contract, because based on that D-scope meeting today, we really, and I think Mary and Pat and Jared did a very good job making sure that the contractor is going to be ready to do what says on that final slide right there. Break ground in April of 2022. Understanding that tomorrow the bridge is out. And therefore, we need to make hay now. And we feel pretty confident that they're ready to do that. So, last thing I'll say, and then I'll just leave it up to whatever questions the board members have. I will say this. It was a very tumultuous last 10 to 14 days leading up to the 29th when the sealed bids were open. People handle stress in different ways without naming names and entities and agencies. I felt like some people came out and tried to change the whole design of the park and the wall and the road for fear of prices being higher. That was not practical with 7 days left. And so we were able to at least work with those agencies and whatever and say, here's a good idea. Why don't we see what the bids look like on Tuesday the 29th? Why don't we see what they look like, and if we do have problems, we've already got a town board meeting, special one scheduled for Thursday the 29th, and that's when we'll start the process of figuring out where do we go forward with this, based on the economic realities of the world today.
Well, I think that it's a testament to the team that they had the foresight to put the alternatives in there in the event that it was significantly over. I mean, that's thinking
John,
ahead.
and like I said, when I say that leaving names out, it wasn't this group over here that had that crisis and felt like we should change everything in the last 7 days. They knew 30 to 40 days ago about this, so they were able to augment, amend the bidding pages or whatever to show these alternates,
Right.
thinking that this would be a good way to governor
No, it's-
potentially high bids.
It's great planning.
It really was, and it worked out well. So now, I mean, you know, it's interesting because if you do the whole kit and caboodle, and Barry, you know from being in it, this is a high-end park. This is gonna be a jewel, right?
Destination.
A destination. If you keep everything in there, all 5 alternates, they already showed you the worst-case numbers on that. It's up about 12%.
Yeah.
If you decide to take out all the alternates, well, then I guess you're right at what we budgeted approximately a year plus ago. I mean, if it's just a dollars thing, it's an easy, well, you just get rid of all the alternates. But I think you might lose the essence of what we're building down there.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
You know, so that's just, to me, that's really,
What is your construction schedule? I know you want to break ground, what from start to finish? And the construction company, the vetting process, I'm sure you asked those questions also. What is the time from beginning to end?
So the timeline would be starting, like Mary said, April 22.
Yeah.
The goal for the first year is to get the road in place, so all the realignment work with the road, and then total project complete by the end of October 2023.
Wow. And all these construction companies that got vetted, they feel they can accomplish that.
Yep, very comfortable.
Great. 'Cause I know a lot of construction companies already have significant projects on their books, so.
Yep.
Yeah, sounds like you did a great job vetting.
Yeah, we got lucky. All 3 companies that bid on this project were very competent. So we had a lot of confidence going into the vetting process that they'd be able to complete the project on time, and that their numbers would be good numbers. So.
Yeah, they were all companies that have done Monroe County DOT work in the past, so, you know, because this is a county road that we're investing in and raising to do the flood, a lot of that has to be done to their spec. All of these bidders were familiar with that work, well vested in that work. That work is very low tolerance work, very strict deadlines with
Yeah.
cost implications and all that, so I think they're very familiar with what we're looking for here, which should work out very well for us in the end, and be very similar to what they're expecting in all ways, shapes, and forms. So with the people we got, the experience is there to understand the urgency, understand the need for deadlines and things like opening roads.
Right.
So with the road this year, that's the goal, is to get it raised,
Yep.
realigned, and reopened before the bridge reopens. And then there's the flood wall and other aspects outside of that. As much of that as we can get would be great, but obviously the road can't stay closed, so
No.
fully open.
Yeah.
you know, and I'd be remiss, I mean, it's not what this special workshop was intended to be, but like I had just said, we have less heavy lifting to do because the bids came in pretty good.
Yeah.
So I think it's to some extent with this project, I call it, it's a bit of the 800-pound gorilla in the room. when Jared just said that October of '23, that ties into that at the end of October '23 is when the bridge goes back in, and that's when more traffic is coming up and down that isthmus. As you saw on one of the screens, this, what we just bid out doesn't include the hopeful bar restaurant
Right.
that building is going in there. On April 8th, which I think is a week from tomorrow, is when we will have the formal submissions of expressions of interest from restaurateur bar owners that are interested in being professional management, being the bar restaurateur down there. As those come in on April 8th and we start vetting them and looking through them, I think we will probably be working with the contractor and the fill and the break wall, because I really believe that bar owner restaurateur will have a lot of say or influence on what type of foundation and footprint and the DEC permits and all that. I'm not giving up the ghost that depending upon the sophistication of the winning bar owner restaurateur, that is not out of the realm of imagination that next summer at some time that bar restaurant could be open. And that's before October 23. But so much of that, and that's why I hope, hear me now, remember me later, play back the tape, don't take me out of context on this. It really comes down to what the winning bidder's vision is, how sophisticated they are, and all of that as far as how quickly a building could be up and liquor license and all that stuff to be in operation. I'll leave it at that. Wow.
You don't leave much for any of us to say.
I don't think he left anything for us to say.
I wish I could argue that, but I gotta own that one.
Yeah.
Come on, Bill, you gotta have some questions here.
I don't have any questions.
Come on, Bill, you gotta.
I was very surprised that the bid number came in where it did.
Yeah,
And when I saw that, and I checked the math and made sure it was right, there was no question in my mind what we were doing.
yeah.
Yeah.
You spoke about a heavy lift. Our heavy lift is get it done by next week.
That is. what
Moving to
we do.
resolution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah.
The only question I have is how soon is that building coming down?
Well, I will say that
You gotta put that out there.
we'll get our DEC permits either tomorrow or Monday, and that's the first step in demoing the building, so.
Good.
And Bill, from full transparency, if that's an overused word, but, you know, we did the pre-demolition test through an environmental firm, and there is minor, I'll call it minor, I know that's a subjective term, asbestos roofing shingles, so that's gotta be done first, you know, and done in an appropriate manner.
Yep.
But that barn and that building, there's two, obviously, they will not, in fact, that came up a couple times at the de-scope meeting today, because just the temporary lane traffic and staging and stuff, they want to know, right? So, no ambiance, Bill, on that staying up for any longer than it has to.
Understand. Just a question.
It's a good one.
Yeah, we're looking into state contract for doing the roof abatement and then figuring out how we'd like to demo the rest of the building. So it's in the process of planning.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions.
Jenny?
Very good. Thanks.
Wow. Well, that really concludes tonight's meeting, except for,
I would like to ask Mr.
Yes.
Supervisor if we could have a short executive session pursuant to Public Officers Law subdivision, or Section 105, Subdivision 1, Subdivision D, regarding potential and proposed litigation.
yes, and I want to make a motion to go into executive session for what Attorney Genesi just said.
I'll second that.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wynn?
Aye.
Councilwoman Capaldi?
Aye.
Councilman Adam?
Aye.
And I would say the town board, certainly the town attorney, Charlie, I don't know really if anybody has to be other
No,
than that
no, I would
involved,
just say the
all
town
right?
board is fine.
Okay.
Nobody else has to be here.
And the
for
town
this.
attorney,
Yep.
so, and I promise you, I will let you, because that went in at 6 o'clock, I will let you know exactly when we come out.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you, Mary, thank you, Pat, thank you, Jared.